Stop sweating me. Number one draft on the number one team. Don't need no bread, just give me that green. Style so fresh, swagger tish so mean. Fellas swarm, even ladies mean. Tryna get close, tryna get to know me. It's like I'm an American dream. Canadian girl, let me do my thing. Your queen, your king, your ace. And I'ma give the people what they came for. I'll take you to the end of the rainbow. Vancouver born, Texas raised, Florida reformed, and Brooklyn saved. Clearly I'm an American dream. Canadian girl, let me do my thing.
Yeah, we hear you this time.
Yeah?
Yeah. Right now your song is playing.
I can vaguely hear it.
I represent Vancouver, BC, and the north side of EPT. There's a lot to me. I show versatility. I could be your little wee French lover, but cross me, turn around, I'll be one bad mother sucker, run for cover. Or I could be a Florida girl, boat drinks with umbrellas, bikinis for the fellas. But Brooklyn's the home where I made my name. Started touring the world and really chasing my fame. I'm playing to win, I'm playing for keeps. You playing yourself, you play against me. Cause I'm not gonna stoop to your level. I got a heart like an angel, but the mind of a devil. I'm crazy, I'm coming like dangerous CeeLo. Beat so wicked, my style so loco. Clearly I'm an American dream. Canadian girl, let me do my thing.
Welcome to the Cymarshall Law Show, where we dive deep into the stories of the most fascinating figures in the music culture and beyond. I'm your host, Cymarshall Law, and today we have a very, very, very special guest whose voice has been described as dripping with love and sex, whose words are pure magic, who delivers her songs with the precision of an MC. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to be enchanted by the multifaceted talent of Honey Larochelle. Born in the vibrant city of Vancouver, raised with the soul of Texas, and polished by the bright lights of New York, Honey is a force of nature in the world of music. She's a Canadian powerhouse who's shared the stage with legends, and her heart is as big as her voice. From singing on a John Denver album at the tender age of 6 to touring the world with icons like the Brand New Heavies and Josh Stone, Honey has crafted a career that's as diverse as it is impressive. She's not just a singer, she's a songwriter, vocal arranger, a vocal producer who's poured her soul into her debut album, The Yes Feeling, and has continued to captivate audience with her dynamic presence and raw, unfiltered artistry. But that's not all. Honey's also a very proud weirdo, a cheese pizza goddess, and a sultry berry fairy in her puppet band. Honey is a multitude of things, but most simply, she's a brilliant person, and we are very, 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 very lucky to have her here. Please give it up for Honey Larochelle. Hey, Honey.
Oh, hey, Cy. What an intro. That was amazing.
You deserve it. You deserve it. You deserve it. So thank you. Thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Thanks for the invitation. It's really nice to reconnect with you and chat to you today.
When I was scrolling down Instagram and heard your song that I just finished playing, the way I stopped in my tracks was reminiscent of the first time I heard Gnarls Barkley. I lied to you not. Like I was just sitting there, randomly scrolling, and when I heard it, I stopped and I looked down and I was like, "Oh, that's Honey." And for some reason, I don't see your posts all the time. I guess the algorithm, I don't know what they're doing with that stuff.
The algorithms, AI works against us.
But you're here now, so thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So I'm going to start with a multitude of questions. They're kind of random, but when I was going through everything you've done since I've seen you, I was just wowed. I was floored. There are some things you probably had done when I knew you or when I saw you back then and I just didn't know. And then when I did a deep research, I was like, oh, she's been killing it forever.
Thank you very much.
No doubt, no doubt. So my first question, if your voice was a potion, what magical effects would it have on those who heard it?
If my voice was a potion, anyone who heard it would experience the knowingness that they are a child of God, that they have the birthright of abundance. Their frequency would be higher. They would feel healthy and happy, hopeful, certain.
Man, that's wonderful.
Yeah, that's my prayer for everyone.
I wish you could sing to me every morning if that's the case. How has the tapestry of places you've lived woven itself into the music you create?
It's definitely made an impact. I say the sentence, it's not where you're from, it's where you're at, a lot in my career because, Canada doesn't have the same sort of cultural imprint as some places do. So I pick up a little bit everywhere I go. I've lived in 4 different cities, but I also spend a lot of time in the UK and in Denmark. And all of those places have definitely shown up in different ways. Somehow the accent, the culture, a little phrase here, a saying, a reference to the food. There's so much we pick up as we go.
Did you know I was born in the UK?
No, I did not know that.
Sure.
What?
Luton Town. Luton, innit?
What?
You've probably been to that airport. Yeah.
Are you taking the piss?
No, innit?
Well done. How did that happen?
In 1990, my parents moved to America, and they did it for better opportunities. So I've been here since I was 9 years old. So my parents were originally born in Jamaica, and as a lot of Jamaicans do, as you probably know if you've been in England a lot, they moved to England, and then me and my brother and sister were born in England and moved to Jersey in 1990.
Wow, I'm surprised that your accent didn't stick. I know people from the UK who've been here 25, 30 years, and they still hang on.
You want to hear my mom?
Tight.
My mom sounds like she never left. You know what? I'll tell you exactly what it is, though, honey. A lot of people probably don't know this, but when I was a little kid and I moved from England to America, a lot of Americans couldn't understand me. And then the ones that they did, they kept asking me to say words over and over again, like batteries and or a calculator and things like that. So I just got annoyed with it. So I started trying to speak in a way where they just understood me and didn't have to ask me 2 times to say things. And then when I started going back to England, they kept saying, oh, you don't sound like an American. And when I go back to America, they'd be like, you don't sound like an English person. So I just learned to speak in a way that people would understand me.
I really resonate with all of that, having moved to the States when I was 12. And I didn't know I had an accent. I couldn't hear it at all.
Uh-huh.
But I definitely took on whatever accent was around. I began becoming a chameleon because I wanted to fit in. I was always the new girl. And I was sick and tired of sticking out, which is like, now we want to stand out. Now we're very proud of
Right.
all the things that make us individuals. But man, kids can be cruel.
For sure.
And
Especially the boys to boys.
I hear you.
The girls kind of liked it, actually. It was the boys who were hard on me.
I'm sure the girls loved it.
Can you share a moment? Sorry, so you're going to say?
No, I was going to say that I'm sure the guys were just hating.
For sure. But it ended up working out in my favor.
Congratulations.
Can you share a moment where you felt your music or voice channeled healing energy to someone?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been offering Reiki. I became a Reiki practitioner during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And, I learned Reiki, which is really a hands-on modality, but I learned it online via Zoom, and I practiced it online, and I still, to this day, I offer a monthly tune-up every month. And so what's beautiful about Reiki is that it's not limited by space and time. So you can send Reiki energy silently to a younger version of yourself or an older version of yourself or someone across the world or across the country. So I have people from all over the world come. And because music is so powerful and that's my superpower, I'm so thankful that I have this gift as well. So I just add my voice, I add singing, I add frequency, and I believe that the frequency carries Reiki much further and infuses the healing.
So you
empowers
just said something that blew my mind. You can send energy to a younger version of yourself. So let's say like
or a younger version of you, friend.
So let's say I had like unhealed trauma and I was is that kind of why you would do it? Wow.
That's exactly why I would do that type of stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
I never thought about it like that. That's so cool. Can you kind of just tell the viewers who don't know what Reiki is, what it is? I kind of just asked the question as if everyone knows, but there has to be some people who don't know, and they should know.
Yeah, if you've never heard of Reiki, it's a healing modality. I think that the easiest reference is like it's similar to yoga in that it's a healing practice, and the more you practice, the more it heals. Often massage therapists also learn to offer Reiki so that before, during, or after your massage, they can offer Reiki. It's usually a hands-on modality. It's originally a Japanese modality. It's ancient and it's powerful. It can heal emotional trauma. It can heal physical pain. It can heal relationships. It can heal thoughts that don't serve. It can help you with sleep, anxiety. There's so much that is possible
Right.
with Reiki. So
man, it's
I hope
so
that
awesome.
helps.
Also, you saying you could send energy to a future version of myself or yourself, because I tend to think, time is not linear and everything is happening right now. So I see why you would be able to do that. Wow. Wowzers. You might have
it's
to,
super special.
yeah, you might have to do that for me after the show.
With pleasure. I would be so honored.
How do you balance the demands of a music career with your commitment to environmental activism?
That's a great question. And the reality is I'm balancing so much more than just my music career and my commitment to environmental activism. And one of the things I tell my clients all the time is if you are a person like me who's juggling a lot of things, what works best is splitting your week up versus splitting your day up.
Right.
So I'll have a day that I'm committed to activism. I'll have a day that I'm committed to my career. Today, as we're just cutting vocals, Today, we're just working on straws or other activisms, etc. Or we're just writing emails to raise awareness today. That's what we're doing. So that's how I manage.
Right, right. It sounds like a lot, but I'm sure you're able to do it all, being the fabulous person you are.
We try and we fail all the time, and that's the point.
And
The
sometimes,
more you fail, the better you do.
right, and sometimes you probably have to strip back the sugar coating in everything in life, more than just your music. But speaking of your music, in what ways has stripping back the sugar coating in your music led to deeper connections with your audience?
I love that question. Stripping back the sugar coating, in my opinion, feels like taking away all of the things that we think make the song more special or spectacular. But when you're writing, you want to write a song that will translate and get the point across and really speak to someone's soul if it's played acoustically just on a guitar. A song is a song.
Right.
Sometimes we get addicted to the sparkly sound effects and, ooh, there's that big swell right here. And then we added that horn and now there's these strings and like all of these little elements that can support your message. But I think that when you strip it all back and you're just giving a raw, honest performance, that's when people can really, I think you can sort of see into your audience and they can see into you.
Right, I feel that. I often think there's a lot of gimmicky music nowadays, and I always think about when Bill Cosby and his dad would go in his basement and listen to those old records. And I'm sure there was nothing gimmicky about those records, and they were probably records from the 60s, 50s. And I just often think the records from today that are gimmicky, will anybody ever be in their basement dusting them off, playing them on vinyl? And I don't think so.
I had that thought today. I was in the gym and back to back, there were songs playing that we know and love. Mm-hmm. These are songs, maybe not too old, 20 years ago songs, right? Mm-hmm. But considered a classic today.
Right.
But both of the songs that played back to back that struck my attention were redone in a way that sounds like a computer is singing it. They added all this like like sound effects, and it was like, oh, AI could have created this. And I had that exact same thought. Now, I'm thankful that there's a wave of, hardcore vinyl collectors.
Right.
And there's a lot of people who are going to vinyl bars now. If you don't own your own vinyl player, you can still go and enjoy it.
Right.
So the culture is there and it's being preserved by the few but the mighty.
Mm-hmm. These are the facts. Do you recall, speaking of older songs or things of that nature, is there like one song your mother sang to you that still resonates with you to this very day?
Well, my mom was a singer, a professional singer, so
I should have prefaced with that. I know that from research, but yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
You know everything because you did some really incredible research, friend.
I sure did.
My goodness. But my mom toured with Marvin Gaye and Little Richard and Bryan Adams, and we were always playing music or singing music around the house. She always sang, "Every honeybee fills with jealousy when they see you out with me. I don't blame them, goodness knows. Wow. My honeysuckle rose." That was our
I love
tune.
It. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. Wow.
My pleasure. Thanks for the moment of nostalgia.
No doubt. Can you tell us about a time when you felt like your luck felt like a guiding force in your career? If at all.
Yeah, I've had so much luck in my career. I'm just struggling for which story to tell. But I will say, after 13 years with Roberta Flack, it became evident that we weren't going to keep working. After 13 years with anyone on the road, you do become family. So I was so focused on, is she okay? How is she doing? That I didn't even notice that I hadn't worked for several months.
Right.
And then I got this opportunity to go and sing on the Smooth Jazz Cruise, where I was honored with the task of learning every single artist on the ship's music and singing backgrounds for them.
Wow.
And so, in 7 days, you're doing 17 concerts.
That's crazy.
And rehearsals for most of them, a sound check that's an hour or two long prior to each show, and of course, changing your outfit, your hair, your makeup. So it was a very intense week of music. But during the rehearsals, I met Jonathan Butler, who is my boss now. He's the man I've been touring with. And it was pretty immediate. It felt very much like kismet. So I don't know if we would call this luck as much as fate.
Right.
But I do believe the two are hand in hand. That as soon as we began singing together, he was like, oh my God, sing with me some more. And then that night, right when the cruise ended, his management called and invited me on the road with him. And I've been with him for 6 years now.
Gotta give it up for that. Super dope.
That's such a blessing. It's such a blessing. That's luck. It's just like when you desperately need it, sometimes you can mess yourself up by being desperate,
Right.
behaving in a desperate way, thinking. That's the biggest one, is how are you thinking about your scenario?
Right.
But when you know and you trust, luck, you can create luck. Luck isn't just like stuff just happens to you. Everything happens for you.
Right.
And we have a hand in all that with our thoughts.
I
Don't mind me, I'm very woo.
No, I'm with you. We're on the same page. I've heard once or a few times in my life that luck is when you're prepared for the opportunity. So maybe
Absolutely.
You've been prepared a lot in your life. You seem like a hard worker, so you've probably been prepared a lot. And then when those opportunities came, along with your positive thinking, boom, made it all happen together.
I'm not a hard worker. I actually think I was pretty lazy.
Really?
Growing up. I think that I was blessed with talent. And intellect. So I was able to sort of float through the things. Like, I loved math. So, it was easy for me to get straight A's without a lot of work. And actually, I'd never learned how to study. That's one thing I kind of really regret. But when, for instance, my friends are moving, you could trust and believe I'm running up the stairs. I'm carrying as big a load as possible. Like, I like to work hard when I can see the task ahead and it's all super clear and the steps and the mechanics are organized.
Gotcha.
Then I'm like, let's go.
Do you ever wonder if things might have been different if you were a hard worker, in your opinion?
Absolutely. I'm a hard partier. I love to party. I love to laugh. I love to scream in a club. I love to dance. And I spent a lot of hours doing those things.
Adventurous.
Growing up. Yeah. But you know what? I don't regret any of that because I also have once in a lifetime memories over and over and over again.
Right.
And I don't know if I worked harder and things moved faster, if that would have equaled my preparedness.
Right.
I took my time and it's all going much slower than I ever anticipated, but it's a beautiful, rich, juicy, thick journey. So there's no regrets.
Most definitely. How does it feel knowing legends such as Roberta Flack believe in your talent so fiercely?
Aw. I have mixed feelings. Of course, you look up to someone for your whole life and then they finally have the opportunity to witness you and they actually see and recognize you. It's incredibly validating. It's a stroke to your ego. It feels really nice to know, like, oh, I am actually good. The good ones actually think I'm good. That means something. I'm not just over here hoping I'm good, and maybe it will help taper off some of this insecurity that most of us struggle with, regardless of if someone believes in you or not. Everyone in the world can believe in you, but you got to believe in you, or else forget about it.
Psh, you said that. So
it feels nice, but it's still important that we hone our own relationship to self.
I feel that. So I saw that you have some dealings with Macy Gray. I love her as a singer, and you and her together, I'm sure, made some beautiful things. Can you kind of tell us about the relationship, how that began with you and Macy Gray, and maybe what was a piece of valuable information she might have imparted on you, or you on her, or her you? Yeah, you said that right. You on her.
Yeah, I was so blessed in that situation. I was touring with the Brand New Heavies. We did a double headline tour with Macy, and she immediately wanted to hear my music, and I gave her a CD with my music on it. And we had 2 tour buses, and she was on her bus and we were on our bus. And then she called my room that night and said she loved my record. She said she could hear that I knew what I was doing, and really from that moment on, she began supporting me until finally she ended up signing me to her record label. And over the course of 3 years, she put me in the studio with all the best producers, writers, and musicians in Los Angeles. We wrote and recorded over 80 songs. So that was a really special time. And yeah, I think that one of the biggest sort of surprising stories was how she got her name. She had a degree. She's one of the most genius women I've ever met, actually. She's a really brilliant human being. And
do tell.
She had her degree in creative writing.
Okay.
So she was really good at spinning a story, making something mundane have a story, giving a very plain account of the day, something about it that made it feel like a movie. Mm-hmm. So how she got her name, just the story that she told around that, I think that was one of the most important pieces that I learned. It really taught me the importance of story. As an artist, nobody cares that you have new music, but if there's a story attached, if you're like, hey, I wrote this when I was on my deathbed and I was fighting this evil disease, and I was able to release it only because X, Y, and Z happened. I mean, if you can add something to it, it doesn't have to be quite so severe, but adding story, actually mining for gold in your life, I think is the biggest thing I learned.
Well, that is a wonderful piece of insight. That can definitely help someone. It can help me as a reminder, but it can definitely help a lot of people. Thank you for that. Yeah. I also read that you had some very nice compliments from one of my favorite producers of all time, Eric Sermon. How did your dealings come with Eric?
To be honest, I don't even really remember. Somehow in my years in Brooklyn, he and I crossed paths, and he somehow heard my music. And he called and said, what's crazy is you sing well, but you deliver it like an MC.
So how do you do that?
And this was not before I ever started MCing, but it was before I actually recognized myself as an MC. I was a singer first. I'm like a singer who can rap, but rapping came a little later. So I think that his comment actually gave me some inspiration in that direction.
That's dope. I wonder if he knows that. Maybe not. Hopefully he listens and finds out.
If you're listening, Eric, thank you.
How do you blend the precision of an MC with the soul of a singer in your performances?
I think the most important part of MCing, obviously it's lyrics, right? But when whatever your lyrics are, when you're delivering them, your pocket is as important as a drummer. And when I'm on stage with a band, if the drummer's off, screw it, the whole band's gone. Like, it's all about the pocket.
Right.
So I think that's the same way I feel about MCs. Now, in today's hip hop, there's a lot of MCs who are way out of pocket.
Right.
And I think that's their style. I think it's intentional. And I think that some of them are having happy accidents all over the place.
Right.
But for me, that's always been the most important thing. And I started learning that early. I had a production contract when I was 17, and I was doing my best to sing these really fast lyrics, but they were a little too fast for me. And I hadn't mastered, breathing and then spitting it out, enunciating, being on time, and combining it all, and also making it sound emotional. And that producer was like, yo, your timing, dude, you got to speed this up. You got to fix this. Okay, try it again. And he really whipped me into shape on that session. And I remember feeling a little resentful for a second, but then when I listened to the difference, I was like, oh.
Yeah, I got something here.
We got to do our tongue twisters. I'm over here. You know what I mean? Red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather, over and over.
Yeah. I love it. I know exactly what you mean. That's so dope.
Say it 10 times fast, kids.
So what was the process like co-writing with Jennifer Hudson, and how did it influence your approach to songwriting, if at all?
She had just come off American Idol. It was before she got Dreamgirls. And my producer and mentor, who is still to this day one of the most important musical influences of my life, his name is Fight Ren, and he's an amazing producer. And he really took me under his wing and taught me how to write and record. And so I owe a lot of my skills today to him. And so he signed her to his production company. He called me. He said, I got this amazing new artist. You got to come and hear this girl. Oh my God, she's amazing. So I came over. We listened to a couple of the tunes. We had a conversation about who she is, what matters to her, what are the things, what kind of impact does she want to leave on the world? We did like a little interview so that I could fully understand who she was and where she's coming from. And then we created 4 tunes. We created more than 4, but she recorded 4 of them. And I don't know that experience influenced my approach to songwriting. I think at that point I was already pretty sure about my process.
Right.
And, I always, if I'm writing for another artist, I need to get in your head. So sometimes I'm writing as we're just having lunch, but I'm over here writing notes, and I'll have bars written by the time we finish our meal.
So when I ask these questions, I try to ask them like tiptoeishly, because I don't want you to get the wrong idea. And what I mean by that, so back in the day, there was a documentary. I think it was like a Roots documentary or something. It was like a concert, and Jill Scott was backstage, and Erykah Badu was on stage singing "You Got Me," and someone asked Jill Scott, like, I'm paraphrasing, it's not perfect, but she was like, do you get intimidated going after Erykah Badu? And Jill looked at them, and this was my favorite part of the whole documentary. Jill looked at her and she was like, do you know who I am? So
have you seen me?
Right. So when I ask you about Roberta Flack, Butler, Sermon, Macy Gray, Jennifer Husband, don't ever take it that I think you're anywhere underneath anybody. I know who you are. And I want my audience.
Oh, no worries.
I want my audience to know that's why you're here. I just want to, express that, because sometimes you have no doubt. Sometimes you have interviews and people ask you about other people, and it's like, well, what about me? So I want to make sure you stay on top here. This is about Honey, because you're the illest. And
you're too kind, but I all of these people are a very big part of why I am where I am and who I am today. So I think it's an important part of my story, and I understand completely why you would start there when beginning your line of questioning.
Right. All right. So, as a Canadian abroad, how does your heritage influence your artistic and personal identity?
I said earlier in this interview, it's not where you're from, it's where you're at. And I've actually experienced tinges of jealousy at points in my life about people who are like, yo, Brooklyn all day, Chicago till I die, because those cities that have a strong culture and offer people an identity that's ready-made. You could just put the hat on and then now you know what your culture is.
Right. I'm from Brooklyn.
And I've always, first of all, in Canada, this is why I said I resonated to your story so well, because I was the only Black person. I met my first Black person when I was 8 years old. So before that, there I was, the ugly duckling, wondering why my hair is curly while everyone else's is straight. Why am I much larger and taller and thicker than everyone? Why am I so different? Why is my nose wide? And I didn't love those features because I was so different. So then I come to the States and everybody looks like me. I'm like, am I Dominican? Am I Mexican? What is this? There's so many different cultures that I got familiar with.
Right.
And I moved around so often that, again, I feel every single city I lived in left a little mark on me. And I use all of the world that I have absorbed, and that is the culture that I exude in my music.
From all the shows you've done, do you have a favorite performance of all time or a favorite place to perform?
Ooh, that's really tough. I definitely don't have a favorite of all time. I think when I went to Brazil, the Brazilians are so passionate. They sing along at the top of their lungs fearlessly. They're not shy or timid or afraid to express themselves. They're quite the opposite. And so that kind of audience is really, really, it really feeds you and gives you more energy to give back to them. I go to Denmark a lot, and Denmark doesn't actually, as a whole, they don't love soul music. But for some reason, I have found the most concentrated and the most talented soul musicians in Denmark. Yeah, like Denmarks are crazy, crazy good. And all of them kind of feel like the ugly duckling over there. They're kind of like, yeah, they don't love what we do, but we love it. So you could tell that they do it from love. And I think that's maybe why it touches me more.
If you could shout out a couple Denmark artists for me and the listeners to look into, who would they be?
Number one, Jonas Soul, 100%. Jonas Soul is the whole reason I have this connection to Denmark. But then you got to check out Barbara Maleko. You got to check out Wafande. You got to check out Jay Spliff. You got to check out Stina Kink. Ooh! I know I'm forgetting somebody now, and I'm going to be sad that I didn't mention them, but we'll go that far right now.
I appreciate that. How does the energy of live performances translate into your recording sessions?
Say again, how does the energy of live performance translate into my recordings?
Yeah, if at all.
Yeah, it doesn't really. In fact, that is something that I've been striving for my entire career. It's always like, when it's live, there's an energy to it that there's a lot more imperfection, but there's this fat, thick, juicy energy. And so how can we bring that into the booth? And I work on that a lot intentionally, of bringing that type of energy, channeling, putting myself in a different place. So, oftentimes producers will set the vibe, light some candles, dim the lights, light an incense, give you a couple, try and get you loosened up. But I find if it's too mellow in the studio, I will lose that momentum, and it's really hard to get a bunch of takes out of me. Sometimes I need it to be like, maybe we need some flashing lights or something to give me that oomph. And I've really worked hard at closing my eyes and putting myself wherever I need to be or get to be or want to be in order to deliver whatever I'm working on in that moment.
Interesting. My favorite song of all time is Al Green, Ain't No Sunshine. I love Bill Withers' version as well. But when I listen to the Al Green version, I just feel the studio session. I can literally feel it. And I'm just like, it feels like it was like a live thing, but I know how they recorded it. But yeah, you were going to say something?
Well, that's what I was just going to ask. Was it live? Did they record it live?
They did, and I think that's why I'm saying that.
That's everything. When I was in Denmark recording this latest album, I had the fortune of playing with several live musicians, and it was my first time ever really cutting while they're playing. So then it did feel like a live performance.
Right.
And most definitely, if I had the budget, that's how I would do. I mean, Quincy Jones, I would do that all day.
Gotcha.
But, most of the time we're sending a track to a different place. The drummer's laying down their stuff, and we're doing it all virtually now.
Let's send some of that Reiki energy for you to have a live Honey album. I would love that.
Ah, shit. And so it is.
And
Hallelujah.
so it is.
Ooh, thank you for that.
No doubt. So, what's the story behind embracing your proud weirdo persona, and how has it liberated you?
Oh, man. The Fungineers has been the most liberating experience of my life. I met the Fungineers for the first time in 2008.
I'm sorry. Explain to the listeners, please, who the Fungineers are, because I hadn't.
The Fungineers is my psychedelic hip-hop puppet band. Which is like, still everyone is scratching their head going, huh? What are you talking about? And it's a lot easier to understand once you've seen a show or a video of the Fungineers. But bottom line is, it's a kids show for adults. It's usually a kids show for adults on psychedelics, because we play a lot of raves and psychedelic music festivals. And so that space, the very first show that I did with the Fungineers was at a festival called Bass Coast up in Canada and BC. And there were 12 of us that day on stage, including Dub Effects, Lafa Taylor. So some people are beatboxing and some people are MCing and some of us are singing, and we're just creating frequencies and sounds, and it's amazing. But we're kind of like passing around 4 microphones between the 12 of us. And it's my very first time in my life freestyling. Now we have an audience, and I'm up there like, oh shit, the mic's about to come my way. I'm a little nervous, but it's fine, Okay, now keep in mind, at this point, I was only ever touring with Joss Stone, Roberta Flack, Brand New Heavies, Macy Gray.
Right.
Everyone wears all black, and they stand there like, yeah, what's up? I'm cool. Like that's the kind of show I knew how to do.
Right.
Now I'm on stage with 12 people wearing wacky, weird costumes, and nobody's wearing any black. In fact, black is not allowed in a Fungineers show. It's like, that's a low frequency color, babe. We're not doing that. So, so we're up there. I'm wearing like polka dots and a big hat, and there's bows and there's stuff hanging and dripping and everything's happening. The mic comes to me, and I begin trying to freestyle. And then I sort of get to that point where you talk yourself out of it, where your fear gets stronger than your bravery and your courage, and you kind of hit a brick wall. And there I was, willing to let the whole 12 of us go down, willing to let it become a train wreck because I was just frozen in fear, not knowing what to say, thinking way too much. And on the mic, I said, oh, this is too silly. And I really just had given up on myself in that moment. And I had given up on the whole situation. And I'll never forget Kieran, the leader of the Fungineers. He grabbed the mic. He said, silly, a silly Billy, a good ability. And then he made up a bunch of words. He took it and rocked with it in a way that I was like eyes wide, jaw to the floor. And it really transformed the way that I approached all things in life. It actually didn't just change how I do music. It gave me the courage to like go way beyond the boundaries I was living in my mind. I was living in this box where you had to fit in, you had to be cool, you had to look good. And now I had permission for the first time in my life to be the opposite, like an anarchist. It was like, screw looking cool. Nobody wants to be a muggle. We're not messing with these norms out here, okay? We are out here being extraordinary.
Right.
We are out here encouraging people to remember what it felt like to have wild abandon like a child. Like, remember when you were 5 and you were jumping in the streets because it just felt like really fun to jump.
Right.
Okay. And then we were stretching our arms and we were spinning and maybe we fell down and we thought it was funny. And, you know, if we hear a new word, we might say it really loud and slow. And, you know, we didn't have any limits.
Right.
And then we grew up and the world destroyed us, took away all of our freedom, our willingness to be unique. I remember having a girlfriend in middle school or elementary, and she said, oh, I was like, you know, your socks don't match. And she was like, who needs to match? Why would you need to match? And I remember judging her in that moment because I was so, it was so important to me to be cool, to be liked, to be accepted. So the Fungineers gave me permission to explore who I am without those confines and constrictions. And what that's done is it's inspired so many people. I've had audience members approach us crying that we've changed their life. I think it's some of the most meaningful work I've ever done. And literally, we are so raunchy, so rude. We cuss a lot. We're just like no limits. And that makes me feel really proud. So that's the proud weirdo. That's the birth of the proud weirdo.
You definitely should feel proud. I was captivated during your whole answer. It was an awesome answer. Like, my favorite of all your answers, that one. It made me wonder, where can one see a Fungineer show?
Well, if you're in Los Angeles, we're going to do one here at our warehouse, Creatington, which is a staple here in Los Angeles. And that will be the last performance at Creatington, because Creatington's closing. That's July 12th. We're going to play at Shambhala Music Festival in BC, also in July, at the end of July, 25 through 29, that weekend. So that's in Nelson, BC. It's a journey if you're not anywhere out there already. And if not, you can always find us on YouTube. I think YouTube has the best content if you're looking for, just like if you're curious. But I guarantee it won't feel the same as if you saw a live performance. But if you're looking and you're curious, go on YouTube, type in Fungineers, and look for a video called What We Do. It's just a 1-minute video, but I think that it at least pulls in most of the elements of our live shows and gives you a small taste, at least, of the aesthetic and the vibe. So I hope that supports.
It does. And I'm going to actually be in LA July 25th and July 26th. So maybe
And
I'll be
that's
able
when
to.
we'll be in Canada. That is so heartbreaking.
Oh, I thought I got the dates mixed up. So July 12th in LA and then Canada.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Oh,
Come early.
yeah, I wish. I wish. Also, your thing you said about socks, how you were when you were a little kid, reminded me of my favorite Albert Einstein quote, which is very simple, and it's, "I don't have to wear socks if I don't want to." And I think that's what you were talking
You
about.
know, Einstein is famous for being a genius, but I guarantee you his experience of life was being a recluse, a loser, a judged person, an outsider, an outcast. That's the word I've been looking for. And posthumously is when he got his flowers. And I just adore who he is and how he was willing to be himself unapologetically. I think that that's exactly what that sentence does. It's such a simple, I don't have to wear socks if I don't want to.
Yep.
And that's true for everything society built into us.
Right.
And so many people feel like these things that have become normalized are fact,
Right.
are law.
Right.
And it's not even close, baby. I dare you to break some laws, break some rules.
You ain't never lied. So speaking of individuality and things of this nature, what's the origin story of the pizza goddess and what does she represent in your art?
You know what's so funny is the pizza goddess was born out of desperation. We had our costumes were all stolen. And we were like, we have this pizza suit and we have a show in an hour and we're out here in the middle of nowhere at this festival. What are you going to do?
That's how things happen.
And yeah, sometimes the mistakes are the ones that stick. Pizza goddess is a legend. She's the one who inspired everyone to love themselves and to encourage others to love them too. She's very cocky.
I'll take it.
Because everybody loves pizza.
Everyone
and you better
does.
recognize.
You already know. So how do you practice mindfulness in the midst of this throwaway culture that we're now living in?
I have wrestled with that a lot. The first time I heard the term, what's the term? Footprint, carbon footprint.
Yep.
I was on a tour with Laura Isibor. We were in Ireland. We were going from Ireland we were doing a long flight. And it was the first time that the term has been introduced to me. And I was like, what are you talking about? Carbon footprint. Like, I don't have a carbon. I don't have any carbon. What? Like, I just didn't get it.
Uh-huh.
And then he was like, well, how many waters have you had on this flight out of plastic bottles? And how many cups of coffee have you ordered? And how many glasses of wine? And that was the first time that I was like, oh shit.
Uh-huh.
I am creating trash. I'm creating a problem. And my activism began on a tour with Roberta in Cambodia. We were staying in this 5-star hotel. Oh, that's weird. The thumbs up sign just happened. This 5-star beautiful luxury hotel. And right outside of my window, there are shanty houses, and they are sleeping on piles of plastic and trash.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And it was just so heartbreaking. So that scene, right? If you can just imagine being in one of the most beautiful places, being in a building that was built to mask the poverty.
Right.
All the people that worked at that hotel lived outside under some plastic. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so devastated seeing it up close. Here in America, we are so spoiled. They take our trash and put it somewhere we can't see it, but it's not gone.
Right.
So knowing that helps me stay mindful. Of course, I also feel slightly hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest polluter is the military. The U.S. military pollutes
I didn't know that.
6 times as much as the rest of the population.
Really?
Yeah, it's really bad. So we are losing the battle, and it's important for us to remain mindful because we don't know what would happen or where we would be today if there had never been anyone mindful. And I have to believe that each and every one of us is impactful. Every thought you have, every action you take, every move you make, you matter. You do make a difference. And maybe you won't recognize the results of that difference even in this lifetime. But you get to remember over and over, hey, this matters, every little thing. So when we are in our integrity, then we're mindful. And when we're mindful, then who are we being? We're going to be exactly who we would admire.
Right.
And therefore, we're going to make some different choices. Now, we're not always perfect, and some days we feel a little less willing to care because we have other circumstances. But that's how I do it. I continuously replay those images in my mind, and it's devastating. If I could actually portray it for you and convey it to you, if you could just picture that island of plastic that's living in our ocean now.
Yikes. I can picture
And
it.
just know that also, by the way, everything that gets recycled, if you put something in your recycle bin and it's dirty, your whole bin is not going to get recycled. So you do need to take an extra step before putting something in your recycle bin. Rinse your Coke can out.
Wow.
Otherwise, it won't go, which is why only 8% of what we put in the bin gets recycled.
Wow.
But we could all do more. We could all do our part. And there's zero education on it because it's a total sham.
Yo, those are wonderful pieces of gems of info that I did not know. I mean, I clean my recycling, but I'm sure if you're saying 8% of people, I know. I mean, that sounds about right. I know people are just throwing shit in the recycling, and
Yeah.
Wow.
They'll just open the can and toss it in that blue bin. And it's like, well, everything in that bin now is not going to get recycled because you were too lazy to wash a dish before tossing it.
That's crazy. Well, you know what? I'm pretty sure you're helping someone today. You have to be, because I didn't know that. You've said a few things on the interview I didn't know. So thank you. You're doing your job helping
Thank you.
the world. I'm so serious. How do you envision music playing a role in creating a more sustainable world?
Songs like Imagine by John Lennon that are timeless and that will last forever, that paint pictures, that raise awareness. You know, awareness is really where all activism begins, and sustainability requires activism. So once you know, right? Like I said earlier, I didn't know there was such thing as a carbon footprint. I had never heard that term. Now, how does he say it in G.I. Joe? Knowing is half the battle.
Yeah. Facts.
You know, so music is a universal language. It's the only way that we can communicate with everyone all at once. There's no other way to do it.
Right.
When the pandemic began, I started hearing terms I had never heard before, like non-essential. And I went into a 3-month depression feeling like, oh, I don't actually matter because I'm not saving lives at the hospital, and I'm not feeding people or storing toilet paper for them. And we are in an absolute crisis.
Right.
And it took a while for me to remember who the heck I am. You know, musicians are the lifeline for most of us. When you're going through a breakup, what do? You put on your sad records. When somebody dies, what do? You put on your sad records. When you're falling in love, what do? You put on those happy records. When you're making love, what do? You put on those sexy records. It's absolutely imperative.
Right.
We're all in our own movie. We all have a soundtrack. So if I'm lucky enough to write something that actually raises awareness before I die, then I'll feel like I did it. Like I did life. I did good.
I love it. So speaking about our own personal soundtracks, when stripped down to an acoustic set, what truths about your music become most evident?
It's similar to what we were speaking about earlier about like a raw song. And once you can actually communicate directly with your audience and they can see right into you, it's more vulnerable. When you strip something down to its acoustic form, then the lyrics are highlighted. Your story can be told. That's why I loved Roberta so much. Why I love Roberta so much, because she's an amazing storyteller. And I will say that Taylor Swift, who makes a ton of music, and frankly, it's never been the type of music that I'm eager to listen to. But nobody on the planet can ever say that she isn't the most amazing storyteller.
Gotcha.
And Adele is another one where you're like, she does a lot of just like her and just an acoustic bass, or, you know, something super stripped down so that you can really hear it. So the truths are revealed when you're not being distracted. And that is one of the main reasons to strip something down to its acoustic form.
Good answer. I love it. What is
Thanks.
one unconventional songwriting tip you can share that you do share in one of your workshops?
I don't know that I have any songwriting tips that are unconventional. I think, you know, the only thing is, can you explore your own boundaries? Can you go beyond the forms that we've been taught? Here's all the rules. I'll throw all the rules at you and drill them into you. And then I'll say, now go and break them all.
Right. No, that I love it, because I tell my children that all the time. Learn the rules so you know how to break them.
That part. Yeah. And the writers that are breaking the rules are the ones that are the most poignant. Post Malone is incredible at surprising us because he's not doing what you expect. He doesn't always rhyme even. It's like, what? You're going to write a line with no rhyme? It's
Right,
amazing.
Right.
Break the rules.
I can dig it.
That's the most unconventional tip.
So I like it. So switching gears a little bit. How do you
Little bit.
how do you help? My sister says when I get angry, my English accent comes out, but nowadays I try not to get angry. So she probably hasn't heard that in a very long time.
Yes, manage it, breathe, baby.
How do you help small businesses find their voice in branding and marketing?
My favorite saying is, in your mess lies your message.
Explain.
So there are parts of your story, whatever your brand is, or even if you're an artist. Brands and artists are the same to me. They all have a story. They were all born somewhere. What's the messiest part of the story? What's the part that if you're telling the story, you're going to want to skip over that part? So Fergie, very, very famous person, used to be a crystal meth addict. Now, that part of her story is the most polarizing part of her story, but also the most human. So in that moment, when you learn that, you're going to make up your own story about her. You're going to make a decision in that moment. And you're going to decide, do I fucks with her or not? Right? So when you are trying to find your people as a brand, if you're a small business or an artist, you need to make sure that those people who don't fuck with you, they know it right off the top. So we're not even going to waste time trying to market to them.
Right.
Immediately throw your mess out front, right out front.
Right.
The messiest part of your story, the one you think might scare people off, do that first.
I like that. That's very insightful.
You'll be surprised at how many people relate to you more because you've been honest and because they relate.
Right.
Because they have the same story or they have something similar. They're like, wow, I can't believe you admitted that. Wow, I fucks with you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's how you find your tribe.
Right. Got it. So we're coming to an end. I kind of just have really one more question, but I want to ask you if there are things you want to say. But let me just ask it. Looking ahead, what new realms or genres are you excited to explore with your music?
I love this question because it gives me permission to declare out loud things that I may have never said aloud before. I've been writing and recording new music this year that I'm really excited about. It's actually been 7 years since I released an album of my own. So this new music, I have been struggling because it's so personal. When it's the Fungineers or for somebody else, I can write a smash fast. But when it's personal, it starts to matter so much, and I begin to feel sensitive. So there's a lot of different genres. There have always been a lot of different genres on my catalog. I have a reggae album. I have soul music. I have R&B music. I'm really actually excited to explore this more sort of epic singer-songwriter. I don't know what this genre is. It's almost, I've been working with Jonathan, who also has done several genres. He's now considered a smooth jazz artist, but he's done gospel records, R&B records. So the gospel stuff, because he's South African, has this sound. It's almost like Sting. What is that? What kind of music is that? It's just sort of epic. It's big. It's emotional. It's authentic. It's raw. It's real. And I don't really know what box it fits in. What would you call that?
Sting?
Yeah.
Alternative rock? Rock? I don't know.
Okay, so maybe it's alternative rock. Yeah, I don't know. But I am excited to explore this more broad sound.
Right.
I have been very, very clear about the direction I've been going. And I've been very limited. I've been in my own box. Here I am thinking I've been being wild and free, and I found another boundary. So I'm going to cross it.
When do you think we might be able to expect to hear that?
Well, the stuff I'm working on now, my goal is to have it out before the end of the year, at least a large portion of it. We've got 15 new songs, but we might get 6 out.
Awesome.
In November, December.
If you need a guest 16 from a British, UK, New Jersey MC, I'm your guy.
Oh my God, would that be the coolest?
It would be.
I've always loved how you sound. I love your pocket. You are the most incredible MC. I remember just being blown away the very first time I saw you and just being such a fan ever since that moment. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
no,
you very
dope.
much. Thank you.
I fucks with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Keep me in mind.
I will do.
So,
I will do. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, no doubt. Open invitation. Always. So, is there anything you want to let people know before I get into my part where I'm going to get into a part of the show. It's the end of the show. I'm just going to say something and you say the first word that pops into your head. But before that, is there anything do you want to let people know? Just anything at all. Anything.
Remember who you are. Everything that you say casts a spell. That's why they call it spelling. Your words are spells. You are very powerful. You are way more powerful than your being. So step into your greatness. Do not be afraid of the unknown part. Take the chances. Life is super short. It could all end tomorrow. Think every day, if I ended up on my deathbed tonight, which part would I regret? And then go and tackle that first thing if you're blessed with another morning.
All right, so here we go. So I say a word or I say anything and you say the first word that comes to mind. You ready?
I don't know.
You got this. You're a fine engineer. All right, Michael Jackson.
Pineapples.
Miles Davis.
Horns.
Joe Rogan.
Nigga.
America.
Fucked.
Favorite movie.
Fifth Element.
Gandhi.
Epic.
Favorite book.
Four Agreements.
Religion.
Spiritual.
Love.
Woo.
Revolution. Revolution.
Power to the people.
And then finally, evolution.
Yes.
I'll take it. Well, my listeners, thank you for having Honey. Thank you for having me. This has been another episode of the Cymarshall Law Show. We'd like to end it by saying peace, love, and positive energy. And we out like that. Peace.
Peace.